Welcome back to the fourth episode of Howard's Rock Talk. I'm Joy, and I'm here alongside our other hosts, Clara, Chloe, and August. And we've got a great episode lined up. And to get us started, I'm going to pass it over to Chloe to introduce our special guest.
So today we're welcoming a pitcher who left a major mark on Clemson softball. Over 4 seasons, Brooke McCubbin was a part of the program's first ACC championship team and earned honors such as ACC All-Tournament, All-ACC Third Team, ACC All-Academic, and NFCA All-America Scholar Athlete. Beyond her numbers, she's been a strong advocate for student-athlete mental health, using her platform to openly discuss the pressures of competition and the support systems athletes need. Brooke, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, so I will go on ahead and start us off with questions. Like I mentioned before, you spoke openly on mental health, and I was just wondering how media coverage, whether through interviews, social media, or just public conversation, shaped your own mental health during your college career.
Yeah, I feel like especially in this day and age with how popular social media is and how athletes are viewed more as entertainers than they are people, a lot of times on social media, people will say hateful things and, talk trash because they don't really see you as like a human being. Um, so I feel like that affected my mental health. And I know like for my teammates, I don't know if y'all have heard of like TigerNet. It's a thing that it's on Clemson. And so they have like discussion boards and that kind of thing. And I mean, every time we lose or if like I'm pitching, it's like, she sucked today or blah, blah, blah. And it's just like a bunch of like old guys just talking trash and they don't even know what they're talking about. So, I would just say, through my time, our coaches would always, tell us like, don't go looking at that stuff and, um, don't let it affect you, don't let it get to you. But it is like a major thing. And even as an athlete for a female sport, which, isn't as popular as a sport like football, I can only imagine the type of comments like Kate Klubnik gets, knowing what we went through. So I would say it's a major problem, but talking about it and getting the word out about it is so important so people actually know, how this affects athletes mentally.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure the pressure was really on for you guys with Clemson's softball program being like so new. As you were coming in, it was something that I know like locally was a huge topic of conversation for us. So I can only imagine that it was like definitely up there in sport, like athlete pressure.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yeah, I have the next question. Um, Recently, I mean, it's become more popular with athletes just being in like the public eye 24/7. Like you always have access to them through social media. But like when you become an athlete and when you get to these higher levels, like you didn't necessarily sign up to be like an entertainer in that sense, to like have all these people always coming for you. So do you think that, especially college athletes, that they like deserve a little bit more grace when it comes to maybe interview responses or like just like in time, like public criticism that they get so often?
Yeah, I feel like everybody deserves grace, and especially, we get some media training, but not anything that's gonna necessarily prepare you for some of the things that are gonna happen. Um, But I would just say, like, I feel like everybody deserves grace, like their kids. Like, I'm not an athlete anymore. But just like knowing that I was like 18 years old and being like so nervous and like I don't see myself as someone that's like an important figure to some people. So, and knowing that some people find that important, does add a lot of pressure. But I think like giving grace because they're just kids and they're like for me, I wanted to play in college because I wouldn't be able to go to college if I didn't play and have a scholarship. So it wasn't like I was, wanting to join a team because I wanted to, make NIL money and be famous. Like I just wanted to go to school and get a job and move on with my life. So I feel like having some grace because some people like they're just trying their best. No one's going out there and trying to lose the game on purpose. So
Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you.
So I have hopefully a more fun question for you, but so you've been part of some of like the biggest moments in Clemson softball history. So when you look back, like what moments just stand out to you most as like defining your career overall?
I would just say, I guess my freshman year, we were in the ACC tournament championship game and we played Florida State and knowing like, and we lost. And knowing like how devastating that feeling was back then kind of motivated, especially my class as a whole, to kind of get back there. And we had never, that was the first time we ever beat Florida State in program history was the ACC championship game this past year. So kind of knowing like that was like a hump we needed to get over and just kind of remembering 3 years before how that felt. Um, Kind of motivated us and you know I guess that was kind of a defining moment even though that was so early in my career. It kind of just gave us something to fight for. I feel like the lowest moments always kind of give you something to work towards, and that's something that Coach Rittman always wanted to preach to us is whenever we would have our last game of the season and like lose out in super regionals or something like that, he would always be like, well, now we know like we got here, how do we get to where we want to be? And so I feel like those lowest moments are always the biggest ones and the ones that you need to remember the most, kind of, because those are motivators. And so, yeah, I would say that ACC championship game freshman year is probably a defining moment for me.
For sure. Thank you.
Okay, so Brooke, with you being a former college athlete and also being a woman, with all that you've accomplished and everything you've seen throughout your time as a student athlete, what is one thing you wish the media highlighted more about women in college athletics?
I would just say there's a lot of disparity within, especially NIL. Um, you know, the average football player is still going to make more than probably, well, the average football player is making more than the average softball player. But if you're ever wanting to make like anything close or anything that like, I mean, anything close to what a football player is going to make, you have to be like the best of the best, a superstar. And I just feel like for women, it's just not publicized enough, like the disparity. And I feel like, especially with Title IX, and I work in D2 athletics now, and, just seeing like the kind of trends that the NCAA is going into. I mean, I personally feel like it's going to be a Title IX issue, especially because we're talking about college athletics. Um, so I feel like that's something that needs to be talked about, or having caps, or that kind of thing, or like revenue sharing. I don't know the answer, but I just feel like that needs to be talked about. It's just kind of the love is not being shared. And I mean, it's different if you're playing pro, but you're a student, so you're under that legislation. So I guess that would be something that I think needs to be discussed way more.
I have one more quick question for you. So you mentioned that you work in D2 athletics now. I was just wondering how your experience as a college athlete kind of prepared you for your role now post grad.
I feel like definitely time management and just kind of being able to juggle multiple things at a time. Because I'm still in school, like I still go to Clemson, I'm getting my master's degree. So having to still be in school and deal with having a full-time job, and also it's a lot of travel. Like I just got home last night from a 5-day trip, and then I'm leaving for Dallas on Thursday for till Sunday. So lots of travel. Um, so I feel like that prepared me to work in athletics, just kind of the time commitment. But I would say like my job now is so much like operational. So you kind of as an athlete don't see what all goes into the events that are held, whether it's on an on-campus event or a championship. So I work for Conference Carolinas, and that's a D2 conference with, I'm sure y'all have heard of SWU. SWU is in it. Um, Erskine's in it, Young Harris, those kinds of schools. Um, and so like seeing it from like the conference level and seeing that what all goes into a conference championship, I would have never imagined. And we don't have half the stuff that the ACC does, you know? So I would say being an athlete prepared me for the more abstract parts of my job, not so much the application of my job.
No, that totally makes sense. Well, we really appreciate it. We hope you have a great rest of your evening. Thanks for taking the time to come talk to us.
Yeah, thank y'all. Y'all have a good night.
You too.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
So today we're going to be talking about how athletes juggle their performance and online presence simultaneously, especially college athletes, and how they just feel so much pressure from this. So something that really just sticks out is how obviously how different it is to be a college athlete in this generation and with all like the social media. But it's just like for them, it's not about how you perform on game day anymore. It's not just about their athletics. It's also like about how they present themselves online. And that balance between performance and online persona has become honestly almost like a second full-time job for athletes. And like on social media, everything just moves so fast. And so one great moment can go viral for them. And then also one mistake can too, which Joy will talk about later. But athletes feel that pressure constantly from the media, and they're not just managing their sport, they're managing how people perceive them, which can obviously be exhausting for them, especially when you're trying to like keep up with school and keep up with their practices, travel, and just mental health overall. So at the same time, it's also interesting because this era also gives athletes more control over their own stories, and they can build a personality online, they can build a brand online. They can also connect with fans, and this is something that athletes in the past never had a chance to do. So that's a plus. But with that opportunity comes the pressure to always be like on in a sense, even if they're going through something personally or want to take time away from social media and all that comes with it. So I think it raises the question of how much of yourself you're supposed to share online as an athlete, um, and how much you want to keep private or you're supposed to keep private. And it also makes us think about what kind of support athletes need as they juggle this like in today's day and age, because it obviously wasn't prevalent not like even 10 years ago. But yeah, just like they have to juggle their real lives and their online presence, which I think is something for everyone to think about.
Yes, and I feel like in terms of real life examples, we've seen how one mistake can change everything. And I feel like the story of Mikey Williams makes that very clear. Williams was once a viral high school basketball star. He had the talent, the popularity, and opportunities that could have carried him into college basketball and potentially the NBA draft as early as 2024. But of course, one bad decision and the people he surrounded himself with altered his path completely. So in March of 2023, a dispute at his home in Jamul, California escalated into gunshots being fired at a car leaving the property. Williams was hit with multiple felony charges, including I'm sorry, assault with a deadly weapon and firing into an occupied vehicle. Witnesses testified that they even saw him with the gun and heard him making threats, which intensified this case against him even more. So on November 20th of 2023, he pled guilty to one felony count of making criminal threats, along with a firearm-related allegation, and his plea agreement required anger management courses, 80 hours of community service, behavioral therapy, and gun safety training. And by August of 2024, he received a year of probation, and his charge was reduced to a misdemeanor once he met all of his requirements. And he was also prohibited from owning a firearm for the next 10 years. So, throughout this process, when the news broke, he faced heavy media scrutiny. I remember being on TikTok and just seeing like him everywhere, and many podcasters and commentators were just scrutinizing him for his poor choices, as well as it was all over the news as well. And many questioned whether he would ever play basketball again. And although he has since returned to the court and is now playing for Sacramento State, he just transferred there. I think that's like the third school he's transferred to. His experience stands as a reminder to athletes that their choices on and off the field of play in the athletics world can heavily influence how the media portrays them and ultimately their careers. So, I feel like with that, it just shows how, back to what August was saying, um, kind of like protecting your image is like a full-time job. Like you have to always make sure that you're on guard, when it comes to media training, making sure that you're not saying anything that is, too political or too, insensitive, too religious, things like that, just to protect your overall brand. Because we see here that, even with the people that you hang around, making sure that you look the part at all times, whether you're on or off the field, because this can ultimately determine your branding and how people see you. And it will affect you in the long run. Like even with this situation, although like Mikey is playing again, um, and he's in college now playing, you might have like some NBA coaches who might say, oh, well, because of this situation that happened in 2023, I don't want this attached to my brand and my company. So there might just be like, hey, like I'm just not going to deal with this player simply because of that. So
Yeah, and
yeah.
I feel like Brooke kind of mentioned, it's not like they have extensive media
Mhm.
training as student athletes. Like they're not getting that level of like, here's your PR response for when someone asks you something that is obviously like baity, you know? And I think all of us, as we transition from students into professionals in sports media, definitely have to think about the ethical side of journalism and remembering that at the end of the day, we are, if you report on college athletics, if you report on anything, you're talking to a human being. But if you're reporting on college athletics specifically, you're talking to kids. Whether like legally adults or not, freshmen college athletes are kids. And there's, to remember that when you ask a Beatty question, you're asking a Beatty question to an 18-year-old that lacks a lot of media training. And it's something to really, really think in mind or keep in mind, sorry, when you're going into some of these post-game interviews when emotions are high and they already feel bad. It's like Brooke said, nobody goes into a game to lose a game, but they might already be really tense and might come off a little bit emotional. And it is, you know, in my opinion, part of our responsibility as journalists and media professionals to keep in mind that student athletes are still students.
Yeah, I wonder how much media training the football team gets, honestly. Like
Yeah.
Probably way more than the softball team.
100%,
Oh,
but
yeah. I think it's
Yeah.
interesting too to look at the other side and like how much social media has affected it. On the side of like, I saw
Yeah.
after we played FSU, I saw like an Instagram post or like a Yik Yak or something, and it was FSU fans complaining because there were pictures of their quarterback at like a frat party the night before or like the Thursday night before they left. And so I think it's interesting that like they can't do anything without like just they go out in public and just get
Yeah.
criticism or get like pictures taken of them where maybe they're not supposed to be. And even like here, I think of like Ian Shefflin, even though he's never like been in like a bad spot, like he'll just always be downtown. And like a lot of the football players, like I'm not trying to like
Mhm.
make this a whole thing, but like they will just go
it's
out and
not like
just
he can
be.
blend in. He's literally like
huge. But like they're just trying to
So
live their
tall, you can
life.
see him like you're at Roar and you're like
Yeah.
looking around and you just see like
Yeah,
Well,
like they're
and
just trying
also
to
like
be normal
I don't
college
know if
kids.
y'all remember this because yeah, like
Yeah.
I remember being like, oh my God, I think it was like my senior year of high school. There was this like picture that went around of okay, don't quote me, but because like this was forever ago, but it was like Trevor Lawrence and this girl
yes.
on the rooftop
Hmm.
at study hall, and it was like a huge thing, and everyone was like, because he was like, I think he would like just started dating Marissa, and it was like,
Yeah.
it was like tea
Yeah.
at the time, and it was like, dude, who else is gonna show up on my mom's Facebook, like a picture of you at the bar? That's
Hmm.
crazy.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's really such a lack of personal boundaries for
Hmm.
them. And it's like you said, like you didn't when you go to school to be an athlete, you go to be an athlete. You don't go to be an entertainer. And because of social media, it's like, you know, like we said, we're online 24/7 and you can't turn it off because what if somebody takes a picture of you standing next to a girl on a rooftop bar? It's like
Yeah.
Yeah.
there goes your NFL prospects, dude, but like not really, but you know.
Yeah, and just like the general like perception that people have. Because now, if someone just saw that from Trevor Lawrence, they oh, like he's a like douchebag, like he
Yeah.
has a girlfriend, and like maybe they'll never see another thing about him, and that's all they know him from. Obviously,
Hmm.
he's the greatest quarterback ever, but like other than
Yeah.
that, like
And it's
I don't
like
know,
how
it's just
many times,
crazy.
yeah, like how many times have you ever like wanted to like I don't know. Well, maybe not us personally because I personally don't get hate comments on my Instagram, but like if you're an athlete, you might. And it's like how many times do you think they've had to like just like and like not shot back something like crazy, even
Hmm.
though they wanted to, because it's like you're
Yeah,
personally attacking me and my performance right now from your couch. And
Yeah.
like, you know,
I
but they
feel
can't
like
even do that because that's like career over.
yeah, and even if athletes try to like just post anything else outside of their sport, like especially college athletes, just like their friends or literally anything, they will still half their comments will still be based on their performance from the week before or like literally anything. They just cannot escape it.
Yeah. That would be that would be really tiring. And I could totally see how, I mean, it goes without saying that I think your mental health would certainly suffer in that situation.
Yeah, the burnout would be so
Yeah,
real.
I
Like I
yeah, I don't like for me, I sometimes I think like you're when you're someone who's not a part of like the athletic world and you're just seeing like, oh, all the glitz and glamour that come with it, like it kind of makes you think like, oh yeah, I would love to be an athlete. But after like being friends with one, I'm like, no, I would not love to be an
Mm-mm.
athlete because it's so strenuous. And then like the biggest thing for me, I'm a big family person. Even like imagine like getting to like the NFL or like the Olympics and stuff like that's great, but like these people are sacrificing like their daily lives. They're sacrificing time spent with their family. They have these early morning workouts, late workouts, have to be in Neri for like 10 hours a week. I'm like, I rarely even study. I can't do that. So I think for me, it just goes to show that like a lot of times there can be like an invasion of privacy, like you all stated with athletes as well. Like back to the whole Trevor Lawrence situation. I was scrolling on TikTok one day and I think something about Trevor Lawrence got mentioned. I think it was showing a clip from like back when they won like the championship. And so like I just went to go like type in like over Lawrence and the video from the girl who was at the bar with him popped up on like the page and she's on TikTok and she has like it starts off with like this picture of Trevor and Marissa and then it goes to her showing the video of her with him at the bar and saying like, "Oh yeah, I took your man." And I'm going to the comments and it is just like everyone just bashing her and people just like, "What was your point of making this video?" Because
Bro, you
like
got
he's
a whole
happily
kid
married.
now.
Yeah.
Yes, he has a child. He has a
I'm
whole kid.
obsessed with their
Like,
kid. She's the
Guys,
cutest.
So
she's so
cute.
Like I
cute.
yes,
follow
she is so
Marissa and like she
cute.
She's
posts it
such
all
a
the time. I'm
chunky little
like,
baby. I love
I
it.
know.
Like,
That's also the thing that
Yeah.
like anyone you come into contact with will now have stories about you and could like switch the narrative or like make it a whole thing when it wasn't. But then anybody who has a story with an athlete like gets that popularity, like their 15 minutes of fame, which could
mhm.
easily be so like weaponized. It's crazy.
Hmm.
And it's kind of like what Brooke was talking about. Like, it's actually funny that she brought up TigerNet and like the threads on there because like TigerNet's a really cool media outlet, but like their threads are crazy because like me and my dad actually were just talking about a thread that we saw about Dabo after the Louisville game, and we were both like, I genuinely hope he doesn't read these because they are really demoralizing. And it's like Dad
Hmm.
was grown man, which I mean, like college students are like grown, but like Dad was like grown, and he can take it. Like he gets paid for this.
Hmm.
You know, not all athletes even get paid. And you go on your Instagram, and Steve from Columbia is like, "You missed that pass, you
Ripping you.
suck,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you're never going to the NFL." Like, whoa, I'm like. Like, are you
Yeah.
serious?
Yeah.
Dabo's been in the game a long time. He can probably handle it, but
Yeah.
Yeah,
He
maybe not
probably
the
just
athletes.
ignores him
like
at this
Dabo
point.
knows not to look. He probably has people handling his stuff for him anyway. He's
Yeah,
media trained, like
exactly.
18-year-old like Chad on the men's soccer team. Not if there's a Chad on the men's soccer team,
Shout out, Chad.
that sucks. But like, the hypothetical Chad on the men's soccer team with no media training is like
Yeah.
just simply trying to watch some reels and his comments
Yeah.
are popping off. So that's like that's just
Yeah.
so tough. And it's something that, I think um sports media in the past, like we know, has not always been A, respectful towards athletes, and B, kept good professional boundaries. And so it's the hope that I have that as like our generation works its way into sports media, that that's something that will be on our minds as I feel like we're a little bit more conscious of mental health and the impact of the internet because we've grown up with it. So it'll be cool to see how this like whole landscape develops.
Definitely.
I'm Joy here with Chloe, August, and Clara, and we're so grateful you spent this episode with us. Thank you to everyone who has tuned in throughout the semester. It has truly been an honor and a privilege to create this podcast and serve the sports community with stories, conversations, and perspectives that matter. We appreciate your support more than you know, and this is Howard's Rock Talk signing off for the semester. Thank you all for listening. Bye.